Um, Good evening. It is now 6:31, and I open this meeting with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
If everyone will please bow their heads and ask for God's blessing. Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so from your boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the members of our city council, for various levels of elected officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I am asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our time, a sense of welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, and personal peace in their lives and joys in their tasks. We pray for the agenda set before us today. Please give us an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work and around our beloved city of Alice. In your most blessed name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pete, will you lead the...
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A citizen who has a request for city services or other items of concern which cannot be approved or otherwise resolved by the city manager may choose to address the council now.
I don't think we have any.
Mayor, we don't have any
You don't have any?
signed up this
Okay.
evening.
Dinah, go to two.
We're going to go to Agenda Item 3, but before you do that, Mayor Pro Tem, just for clarifications of the citizens, since we're two members short, if the city attorney will confirm that we do indeed have a quorum.
Yes, that our city charter allows for 3 of our councilmen to be quorum at a meeting. We do have 3 councilmen here. The charter does not prohibit the mayor pro tem from being counted as a councilman, nor does it for quorum, nor does it specifically take away the rights of the mayor pro tem when she moves to the seat of mayor. And so without any particular specific guidance, then generally I would tell you we could go ahead and proceed.
Receipt, okay. Agenda item number 3.
Oh, Mayor, can I make one quick public announcement?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, just sorry, yeah, real quick. This is just, I just wanted to make this to everybody watching at home. We received an email today that there's going to be some spec ops training going on in the area. Quite a bit of aircraft, quite a bit of military flying in and flying out next Tuesday night. So don't get too alarmed out there. If you do have questions, feel free to contact the authorities, but know that there is something going on in the area. So just wanted to make that aware because it's going to be a concern come Tuesday night.
Thank you.
Delivery and submission of the City of Alice fiscal year 2016 to 2017 revised budget and fiscal year 2017-2018 proposal City of the City of Alice budget.
Good evening, everyone. As required under the City of Alice Charter, Section 43, at this time we will be submitting to the City Council the fiscal year 2016-17 revised budget and the fiscal year 2017-18 proposed budget. Pursuant to Section 46, this budget is a public record. The budget and all supporting schedules will be filed with the city clerk, and anyone can ask for a copy of the budget by making an information request. We have finance walking into the room at this time, and if you give us just a few moments to get set up, they will be handing out to council the binders, and we'll begin the presentation.
Did y'all get, did you, while they do that, did you get this one? Did you see this one? That was the email those were from. This is just your letter. To get them to make a copy for you? Yeah, this is the one about the spec off stream. Did you see it?
I did,
Okay.
thank you.
Well, then, you can have this one since I have it.
You have one?
I have one. Yes, you can have that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie.
Not much.
It is?
No, this is, no, not because today is just about them presenting it. And we go back, review it, and then we come back and start the inquisition.
Everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. On behalf of City Administration and staff, I respectfully present to you the fiscal year 2018 proposed budget for the City of Alice. I offer to you this transmittal letter, which is intended as a summary and overview of the information provided in greater detail within the fiscal year 2018 proposed budget document. While this budget document includes hundreds of pages full of facts and numbers, it is important to remember that the budget is really about how the city, as an organization, serves our residents, businesses, and visitors. According to the budgeting standards established by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA, a municipal budget document should be a policy document, an operations guide, a financial plan, and a communications medium. The proposed budget document attempts to present and explain each fund separately. Each fund section includes supplemental information which illustrates where the money is being allocated, number of employees compensated from the fund, historical funding information to include the adopted, revised, and proposed budgets, and other pertinent data. Other sections of this document, entitled the Statistical Section and Appendices, provide additional information. This information is provided to illustrate to the public the process used by council to allocate scarce resources to meet the changing and challenging needs in our community of approximately 19,285 residents. In short, the sum total of the proposed budget is more than just a compilation of bottom-line numbers. It is the foundation upon which we annually establish our commitment to the public. It is the single most important document produced by the city, and as you read through the budget, I am sure you will realize the great efforts that have been made by prior city councils of returning this city to financial stability. Alice has become the city to watch. As other similar-sized cities are facing similar economic climates, the question that is asked most frequently by citizens in our community is, how did we get here? The city of Alice was a vibrant and growing community 4 years ago. Dependent on the oil and gas industry, the city suffered severe economic loss with the decline and halt to oil and natural gas drilling in January of 2015. By May 2015, major layoffs occurred throughout the city, resulting in a loss of tax revenue, lower property values, and a higher rate of unemployment. In fiscal year ending 2016, the city collected $5,612,396 less sales tax than 2015. At this point in time, city leadership was faced with a very hard decisions that were at times unpopular among some of their constituents. However, these decisions had to be made. At this point in time, 1 year ago, the City of Alice revised fiscal year 2016 budget showed a deficit of $5,397,912. The proposed budget presented to the City Council at that same time for fiscal year 17 included a $4,026,885 deficit. City leadership was faced with the challenge of reducing the deficits while at the same time maintaining the services needed for the protection and welfare of our citizens. The decision by prior councils to raise the tax rates was not something that was done without strict consideration to reduce expenses. Since measures and initiatives to adjust to the sudden economic decline were not timely implemented, administration and the City Council had to find ways to immediately minimize the shock. In May of 2016, the salaries of non-civil service personnel were impacted through a 10% reduction in pay. From fiscal year 16 to fiscal year 17, 29 positions were left unfunded through means of the City of Alice reduction in force policy. City staff was now faced with providing the same services with less resources, a challenge we as staff members continue to tackle each and every day. In addition, agreements were reached with the City of Alice Police and Fire Associations after a period of negotiations. The City of Alice also had to restructure existing debt obligations. Even with all these efforts, and due to the dramatic drop in sales and property taxes, the city was forced to increase its tax rate for fiscal year 2017 to 53 cents per $100 valuation. It is important to note that while the increase to the tax rate was significant, the history of the tax rate for the City of Alice is demonstrated on this graph. To put this graph in retrospect, the tax rate for fiscal year 13 and 14 was 0.247122, unchanged between fiscal year 13 and 14. A slight increase occurred in fiscal year 15, and the tax rate was 0.271826. For fiscal year 16, that tax rate remained until ultimately the decision to raise it to 53 cents for fiscal year 17. We cannot afford to repeat the pattern of prior years, and more importantly, we must apply the lessons learned. The proposed fiscal year 18 budget presents the basis for making tough economic decisions regarding taxes, spending, and services in our city. We have serious economic issues to address over the next several weeks. Working together to face these challenges will be critical as we make fiscally responsible decisions to sustain and improve the quality of life in the City of Alice. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of our collaboration and cooperation throughout the budget process. We have tough decisions ahead of us, but we can accomplish our goal for a balanced budget by showing our strength and resolve to continue leading the city through tough economic times. The state of the economy and the changing conditions outlined above ensure that funding is limited for the 2017-18 budget. Accordingly, emphasis is placed on funding city priorities. The first priority is to make sure that the budget includes funding to a level sufficient to pay outstanding debt obligations and to maintain current level of services to our citizens. Another essential budget priority involves retaining and replenishing sufficient fund balance reserves. Adequate fund balances are necessary for cash flow requirements and unforeseen contingencies. The budget is developed with attention to the concept of long-term sustainability. That is, even though fund balances might be drawn upon to fund a specific one-time project or to fill a temporary need, regular operating expenses should be covered by dependable and consistent sources of revenue. Likewise, any one-time temporary revenue should be used for one-time projects and not depended upon for ongoing funding of basic city services. To achieve these priorities requires that we take a strategic look at our organization, establishing revenues to meet budget obligations, reducing expenditures, and streamlining processes. During the upcoming budget work sessions, we hope the mayor and city council will recognize the significant efforts made by all city personnel to curtail spending and to seek cost reductions without affecting city services. At this time, I'm going to walk you through how your budget is organized. The City of Alice operates on an October 1 to September 30th fiscal year. The budget is organized into separate and distinct funds, each of which is described in detail in the budget document. Budgeting is on a modified accrual basis for all funds. Under the modified accrual basis of accounting, revenues are recognized only when they become measurable and available to finance expenditures for the fiscal period. Expenditures are recognized when the fund liability is incurred. Under tab 1 in your binder is the general fund. The general fund accounts for all revenues and expenditures of the city which are not accounted for in other funds. It is the largest of the city funds, thereby receiving a greater variety and number of taxes and other general revenues than any other fund. It is the city's primary tax-supported fund, used to account for all funds not required by standard budgeting practices to be budgeted separately. The general fund's resources also finance a wide range of activities. Major functions that are financed by the general fund include administration, finance, library, garage, police and fire protection, park maintenance, and street maintenance. The impact of the Eagle Ford Shale caused the city's general fund balance to dramatically fluctuate over the last decade. The actual fiscal year-end 2016 fund balance is $3,960,740, and it is projected to decline to $2,695,399. This reflects approximately 2.6 months of operating expenses. The primary reason for the reduction to the fund balance is that revenues have dropped quickly without corresponding reductions to expenses. In 2016 alone, expenses exceeded revenues by $5,667,395. Through staff recommendations and council approval, the deficit in 2017 was reduced to a projected $1,331,928. There are two primary sources of revenue that are impacting the general fund. They are our ad valorem taxes and our sales tax. Ad valorem taxes for maintenance and operation, sometimes referred to as M&O, are a critical component to a city's general fund. For the City of Alice, the certified values have been as follows. For 2015, $1,321,111,672. In 2016, $1,185,132,173. And in 2017, $869,273,005. For the City of Alice, these values have generated the following levy. For 2015, $1,807,663, which reflects about 10% of the general fund revenues. In 2016, $1,089,717, reflecting about 17% of the general fund revenues. And in 2017, $2,600,291, reflecting about 33% of the general fund revenues. The certified 2017 taxable assessed valuations for the City of Alice is $804,744,695. This is a 7.43% decline from the prior year. Based on this certified assessed value, 1 penny of taxes raises approximately $75,646 of revenue for the general fund. As outlined in state law, an important component for the truth in taxation requires cities and other entities to calculate the effective tax rate based upon the new taxable assessed valuations. The effective tax rate creates the foundation to generate the same amount of tax levy as the prior year. The proposed budget presented to you includes revenues equating to the same dollar amount of property tax revenues as adopted in fiscal year 2017. Since the certified 2017 values have declined, in order to raise the same amount of ad valorem taxes and revenues for 16-17, the city must adopt its effective tax rate. Sales tax is the second component of revenues to the general fund. For the first 8 months of fiscal year 2017, Sales tax collections for the City of Alice decreased approximately 2.39%. The city is projected to collect sales tax revenue in fiscal year 17 similar to fiscal year 16. However, this is much less than the $10.8 million received in fiscal year 2015. For the City of Alice, sales tax has generated the following revenues. In 2015, approximately 85% of the general fund revenues came from sales tax. In 2016, 83% of the general fund revenues came from sales tax. And in 2017, 66% of the general fund revenues came from sales tax. The general fund is the main accounting source for tracking financial transactions for the city. This fund's projected deficit spending for fiscal year end 2017 is $1,265,341. As you move through your budget book, the next sections contain the enterprise funds. These funds are designed to be self-supporting, meaning that the funds derive their revenues from fees for service rather from taxes. We have 5 of them, including solid waste, utilities, airport, golf course, and the multi-use complex. Currently, the airport, the golf course, and the multi-use complex are operating with deficit spending. A transfer of funds from the general fund to the golf course, airport, and multi-use is required to maintain operations. We'll go through the solid waste fund next, and that is section 2 of your packet. In fiscal year 2015, Council approved a separation of the solid waste operations to its own enterprise fund. Prior to this, solid waste operations were included with the general fund. This was done in an effort to make this operation self-sustaining. The function of the solid waste fund is to provide for the collection of our garbage, including brush, and the transportation of it to the city's landfill. This fund is also responsible for remaining in compliance with all applicable states and regulations. The projections for the revised budget for fiscal year 17 show an excess of revenues over expenditures of $271,464. The proposed budget for fiscal year 18 projects revenues and expenditures resulting in an excess of revenues and expenditures of $350,809. The projected ending fund balance at the close of fiscal year 18 is estimated at $2,391,253, which equates to approximately 10.46 months of operating expenses. Beginning with fiscal year 17, the solid waste fund transferred $365,000 to the general fund as an interfund transfer. An interfund transfer is a legally authorized transfer between funds. These funds are considered overhead allocations, and these are common for many municipalities. The transfers are to allocate certain costs that are generally incurred in the general fund to the respective enterprise fund. Examples of these overhead allocations include City Hall operations and the allocation of management staff time. The transfers are generally calculated on a true cost basis. Because of this, and in an effort to minimize the general fund deficit, the proposed budget for fiscal year 18 includes an estimated interfund transfer of $566,325 from the solid waste fund to the general fund. Under tab 3 is the next of the enterprise funds, the utility fund. The utility fund contains our water department, wastewater department, and also our special projects and maintenance and constructions departments. The projections for the revised budget for fiscal year 17 show an excess of revenues over expenditures of $673,810. The proposed budget projects revenues in excess of $8 million and expenditures of approximately $7,671,613, ending with an excess of revenue over expenditures of $411,567. This equates to approximately 7.26 months of operating expenses, or $4,639,664. Similar to the solid waste fund, the City of Alice has historically transferred amounts from the utility system to the general fund. For fiscal year 17, the interfund transfer from the utility fund to the general fund was $1.2 million. After reviewing projections for the utility fund, staff is proposing an estimated interfund transfer from the utility fund to the general fund of $1,416,325. The next section in your budget book is Section 4, and that contains the airport fund. This is to account for the operations at the Alice International Airport. The airport is jointly operated by the City of Alice and Jim Wells County, and each party holds an undivided interest in the assets, liabilities related to the airport. The city and county are each responsible for reporting separately their 1/2 share of individual assets, liabilities, revenues, and expenses of the airport operation. This fund is currently operating at a deficit, and unlike the solid waste fund and the utility fund, the airport fund is projected to have for fiscal year end 2017 an excess of expenditures over revenues of $30,101. For fiscal year 2017, no transfer from the general fund was budgeted. A transfer in the amount of $15,258 from the general fund to the airport fund is required to maintain operations for fiscal year 18. Finance staff is working to develop processes and procedures to make this fund self-sustaining. Section 5 includes information on the golf course. This is the next enterprise fund. It accounts for operations at the Alice Municipal Golf Course, and like the airport fund, this fund is also operating at a deficit. It is projected to have for fiscal year end 17 an excess of expenditures over revenues of $32,710. A transfer from the general fund in the amount of $52,981 is included in the proposed budget for fiscal year 18. A transfer from the general fund to the golf course fund is required to maintain operations. Similar to the airport fund, finance staff is evaluating existing sources of revenue to achieve self-sustainability. The last of the enterprise funds under Section 6 is the multi-use complex. The multi-use complex includes an auditorium and outdoor leisure pool. This fund's function is to account for the operations at the Alice Multi-Use Complex. The facility opened its doors to the public in late June of 2016. In December of 2016, the City Council suspended aquatic operations pending further evaluation and a cost analysis of the facility operating year-round versus the facility operating seasonally. On June 22, 2017, aquatic operations resumed. This fund is still in its infancy, and until such time that there is more historical data, it is difficult to project estimated interfund transfers. The revised budget for fiscal year 17 is projected to be in excess of expenditures over revenues in the amount of $189,999. A transfer in the amount of $119,273 from the general fund for fiscal year 18 has been included in the proposed budget. The next section in your budget book is the debt service fund. The City of Alice has one debt service fund, and we use this fund to record the annual payments on outstanding debt, including but not limited to general obligation bonds, we call them GO bonds, or certificates of obligation, COs. The money needed to make these payments comes from the debt levy and interfund transfers. Similar to the impact the taxable assessed valuations had on maintenance and operations, the city's debt service, or interest and sinking fund, INS, tax rate was also affected. With the restructuring of debt undertaken by the city last year, the 2018 debt service level is the same as 2017 and significantly reduced from what it would have been without the restructuring. The reduction in taxable value should result in an increase in the city's INS tax rate in order to generate the same amount of tax revenues. However, in understanding the council's goal of trying to minimize the impact of the city's total tax rate, city staff proposes to utilize $230,500 of the INS fund balance. It is important to emphasize by law that monies in the INS fund can only be used to pay debt service. The next section of your budget book is the capital improvement program. Protecting, maintaining, and replacing the city's infrastructure, such as water and wastewater lines, facilities, equipment, our municipal fleet, and technology are one of the most important aspects of any municipality. Beginning in December of 2016, city staff began the process of identifying areas to include in the CIP. The criteria used by the staff in the development of the CIP included aging infrastructure, the existing facility or system needing rehabilitation, replacement, or upgrade. And we had aging equipment and an aging fleet, concerns with safety, maintenance efforts are no longer satisfactory, and the maintenance costs exceed projected replacement cost. The CIP has identified approximately over $6.5 million of necessary projects without identified funding sources. The longer these projects are delayed, the more expensive they become. Finance staff is diligently working to identify possible funding sources to include everything from grants and loans to lease purchases and debt. The last section in your budget book is the Hotel Occupancy Fund. This is a special revenue fund, and these special revenue funds are used to account for the process of specific revenue sources that are legally restricted to expenditures for a specific purpose. In summary, when consolidating all operating funds, your general fund, your solid waste fund, your utility system fund, your airport fund, your golf course fund, and the multi-use complex fund, the fiscal year 2018 proposed budget is a balanced budget, but it is dependent upon certain assumptions and the adoption of the effective tax rate. The revenues in the fiscal 18 proposed budget include the same dollar amount of property tax revenue shown in fiscal year 17. As we talked about, sales tax revenues are stabilizing, and the city is projecting to collect sales tax revenues in fiscal year 17 similar to fiscal year 16. Staff is continually evaluating service fees for each individual department and recommending increases in said fees for fiscal year 18. The city cannot balance its budget without, at a minimum, adopting the effective tax rate and finding other revenue sources. This statement is not made lightly. We cannot operate our government and provide the basic service to our citizens without budgeting the same dollar amount of property tax revenue shown in fiscal year 17. The proposed budget has inadequate reserves for the general fund. The decline in property values and sales tax has drastically reduced the general fund revenue, preventing the city from having the recommended balance to cover 3 months of operating expenses. We are submitting this budget to the mayor and city council, and it is being made available to the public on August 2nd, 2017. We look forward to obtaining the feedback and input from city leadership and our citizens. Achieving a balanced budget will require open and honest communication, feedback, and input from our city leaders and our citizens. Working together to make the City of Alice a fiscally healthy government is critical during this budgeting process. I am under no illusion that this will be easy, but I am confident that we can get there. This budget is the premise of our continued commitment to our residents, businesses, and city employees, that we will strive to do the very best we can with the resources and tools available to us. On behalf of the City of Alice administration and staff, I would like to thank the mayor, the council, and the public for their participation in realizing the vision of returning this community to financial stability. Respectfully submitted, Diana L. Lopez, Interim City Manager. Council, if I may, the city has a history embedded in resilience. Over the last 3 years, our city has been faced with many daunting challenges. While we acknowledge that there is a lot of work that has been done to begin to return the city to financial stability, there is still a lot of work ahead of us. Working together to make the City of Alice a fiscally healthy government is critical during this budgeting process. I am confident that we can and we will achieve this goal. But I ask that at the forefront of everyone's mind, this thought remain. As stewards of the public's resources, we must constantly be aware of our responsibility to the public. Although at times we may not always agree with one another, I respectfully ask that we do not lose focus on the most important duty we have in our community, and that is the commitment to our citizens. The commitment to ensure that this year, 5 years, 100 years from today, we have made appropriate decisions about the operations and priorities of our city. Although the fiscal challenges ahead of us are difficult ones, we as city leaders must face them and resolve them. This is our city. Let us continue to take the necessary steps to protect it. This is our city. Let us continue to take the necessary steps to invest in it. This concludes my portion of the presentation of the budget. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Finance, Mr. Roland Ramos, who is going to walk you all through the consolidated fund summary.
Thank you. Good evening.
Or you.
I'm going to try to recap what Ms. Lopez was saying and try to do it in the simplest terms that I know, which is revenues is the money that's coming in and expenses are money that's going out, basically. So when we talk about money that's coming in on the general fund, you have your sales tax, property tax, and other revenues, of course. Now, the expenses would be your daily operating expenses, whether it be for administration, for PD, fire department, salaries, repairs, maintenance, stuff like that. So if you can see on the bottom tab here, the general fund, the budgeted revenues are $11,368,380. Now, your expenses are $12,130,756. So right off the bat, you're at a deficit in the general fund. Now that amount is $762,376. Now, an important note is that we collect about 94% of our property tax, but we have to pay 100% of our services. So right off the bat, you're at a deficit because you're not collecting 100%. So we have to overcome that with other forms. So now the solid waste had revenues of $3,094,600 and expenses of $2,743,791. So that actually gives us a profit of $350,809. $350,809. Now, if you turn to page 4 of your budget, you can see page 4, I'm sorry,
What tab?
of the general fund. It's just, on mine is just page 4. I don't know exactly how.
Section 1, page 4.
Yeah, you can see where, that way y'all can follow me. You can see where on the general fund, we're already short $762,376 in the negative. The bottom right, where it says excess of revenues over expenditures. So you can circle that, highlight it, whatever. The solid waste, as I mentioned, was, that's on page 89. Solid waste, what tab is that, Ms. Pat?
Tab 2.
Second tab, page 89. You can see where we have revenues over expenditures of $350,809. The utilities, the utility enterprise is on page 104, and that has revenues over expenditures of $411,567. So from the different funds, solid waste, utilities, we have, both of them have combined profits. Where we get into a little bit of problems in the airport, the golf course, and the MUC, of course. And the revenues there are just from, they're charging for services. And then the expenses, of course, are the same, daily expenses and so forth. Now, the airport was on page 132 of tab 4. You can see interfund transfers of 15,258. Do you see that on the, right before it? Total airport fund revenues, 15,258. So I'll just make a note of that. The golf course, we transferred from the general fund 52,981, and that's on page 142. The interfund transfers 52,981. And the multi-use complex is on page 153. And you can see where we transferred 119,273 in order to zero that account. Now, in a perfect world, if we had all the revenues come in exactly how we anticipated and the expenses, then even so, our general fund would be short $762,376. So anything unanticipated expenses, of course, that amount's going to be higher. So basically, to recap, we have the general fund that's at a deficit right now. However, the solid waste and the utility funds are supplementing the general fund. And in turn, the general fund is supplementing the airport, the multi-use facility, and the golf course. So that's how we zero out those funds. But at the moment, we are budgeting a shortfall in the general fund.
Is that one anywhere in here?
No, sir. They actually just prepared that right before the meeting. We'll get it to you.
Okay.
I realize that this is a lot of information to be presented in a very short amount of time. So the next few agenda items, we're going to discuss the next processes from here out. The majority of the discussion regarding the budgets, revenues, expenditures, and everything included will transpire during the budget workshops.
Is there any questions? Pete?
Oh, no, not at this time. We'll go back and chew on it a little bit. And figure out what's going
Yolanda?
on.
No, I don't. I'm with
Cynthia.
Mr. Crisp. I need to study this.
We appreciate your time, and I'll go ahead and have my seat now.
It's a lot to absorb. Thank you, Diana and Mr.
you.
Ramos and staff. Appreciate it.
And this will be available,
Yes, sir. We have a limited number of copies that are available right now if someone wants to make a TPIA request, but it will be posted in accordance with local government code to the City of Alice website.
Thank you. What about at the library? Is there
Yes,
a
ma'am, there
requirement
is a
for the
copy.
libraries?
Yes, one is filed with the city clerk and another is filed at the library.
Okay, great. Thank you.
John? You're laughing. Okay, there's no discussion. Do I have a motion for item number 4?
no action. This one.
No action.
No. Mayor Pro Tem, just a point of clarification, that we've completed the presentation on 3. You would need to call agenda item number 4, which is consider and act upon fixing the time and place of the public hearing on the proposed City of Alice fiscal year, et cetera.
Oh.
Number 4.
Good. I was doing that myself. Okay.
Okay, consider and act upon fixing the time and place of a public hearing on the proposed City of Alice fiscal year 2017-2018 budget and cost and publications of notice a notice of public hearing.
Council, our charter requires a public hearing on the budget. At the meeting at which time the budget is presented, we have to fix the time and place of that public hearing. It can occur let me see. We do have to publish a notice in the newspaper, and staff is recommending the City Council set the public hearing for Thursday, August 24th, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council.
And we're scheduled, I was jumping ahead, but we have a workshop, look like we're trying to do the same day.
We, yes, if we set the public hearing, when we get to the workshops, we can kind of work through that. But normally, we do have the public hearing with the budget at a regularly scheduled meeting.
Dinah, so that would be Thursday, August the 24th?
Yes, ma'am, that is the staff recommendation for hosting the public hearing on the budget
August the 24th at 1:30.
at 6:30.
As part of the
As
regular.
part of the
As part of the
regular meeting,
regular
yes, ma'am, as part of the regular meeting.
I make a motion that we set the public hearing for Thursday, August 24th, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. as part of the regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council.
Second.
We have a motion and second by Mr. Crisp. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I forgot that I'm a-
No, you vote.
Well,
She
I
still
vote
votes,
too.
correct?
Do I still vote, John?
Yes.
You don't have to.
Well, I did.
If that's okay.
I forgot that I was sitting
The
there.
motion still carried, you still had a majority.
Okay.
So,
Item number 5, consider and act upon fixing dates and times of budget workshops for the proposed fiscal year 2017-2018 City of Alice budget.
As you can see, the budget document is rather lengthy, and discussions on budget need to happen in a fashion where there is enough allotted time to go through the sections and also answer any questions and make changes to the budget. Staff would recommend holding no less than 2 workshops. The council can hold as many as they like, but no less than 2 is usually a good recommendation. In your packet, there are some dates that have been proposed. The first date is Thursday, August 10th, beginning at 1:30. That is a regularly scheduled meeting in the evening. If council would like to have a budget workshop with a regular meeting, it would be a rather lengthy meeting. So staff would recommend separating the workshop from the regular meeting. In the event that that date is not feasible, Saturday workshops are always a good way to get a lot of focus on what needs to be done. Saturday, August 12th is another proposed date, beginning at 10 a.m. If council wish to consider that date, then we would suggest not having a workshop on the 10th and on the 12th, one day or the other. The next proposed date is Thursday, August 24th. This is also a regular meeting date, and we would ask that you move that time up. And another proposed date is Thursday, September 7th at 1:30. Behind item number 5, narrative, are 2 calendars. And if council wishes to discuss or ask questions or check amongst themselves as to what dates work best, the action would be to begin setting the proposed budget workshops dates and times.
Well, I do have a quick question. Oh, go ahead.
I won't be here.
Okay,
My son's graduating from college, and I will be out.
okay. And that's what
I'm
date?
leaving on Thursday, and I will not be back till Sunday,
Till Sunday?
Thursday,
What-
which Thursday is that?
what-
on the 10th.
Oh, next week.
So the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th are not good days.
On the 13th, I'll be back, but
Council could certainly look at the 14th through the 18th, any one of those days, whatever time they felt was appropriate.
I just checked my calendar and I kind of left August open. because
Okay.
I knew this was coming down.
Yes.
So I can work with just about any schedule. My question is this, is that with the public hearing that we just set on the 24th,
Yes, sir.
would it be best served to the community to actually hold one of these budget workshops after we get the input from them? So automatically setting almost one of them for all the way into September, or after the 24th?
Certainly one after the 24th. The meeting of the 10th, there will be a discussion on the tax rate, because that'll be the next thing that will be coming to council, which is the discussion on what that tax rate might be and where council wishes to set it, so that we can set the hearings, if needed, on the proposed tax rate. If I may make a suggestion, the meeting of the 10th will have information on the tax rate, which will impact significantly where we're going with projected revenues on the budget. So perhaps a budget workshop before the 24th of August, maybe perhaps Wednesday the 16th or Tuesday the 15th, any one of those days.
During that week, I would prefer evening, but if it has to be during the day, I'm
It-
okay
it-
with that.
It does not
also.
have to be during the
So-
day. It's any time that council can set forth
So, I
a
can
good
do-
time for everyone. But at a minimum, past experiences, the first one usually takes a good, maybe 3 hours.
Okay. Well, our council meetings have been taking that long, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay with that. 3 hours is not bad.
Any reason why those dates weren't included in the agenda item? I know you proposed Saturday, August the 12th.
Well, they're just proposals, just trying to fit everything in with everything else that's going on. A lot of it is going to be dependent upon the availability of the council itself.
I mean, how does well, if Wednesday's church, I don't know if that affects anybody else, but.
You know, for me, experience-wise, and given the considerable attention that's going to be required in adopting the 2018 budget, I think we need to all consider that we need to put some extra time into this. So for me, Saturday is good because, you know, for those
Well, I think the
of
only-
those who work.
The only one would be.
Are
The only
you out on
Cynthia's
the
gone,
12th?
yeah.
Are you out on the 12th?
Yeah, that's why we kind of moved past that one.
But-
I can make the 12th probably later, but not earlier, because
Yeah.
graduates on Friday, and that's in College Station. So
You're coming back Saturday.
Nice.
I will be back Saturday.
And
I
I'm
mean,
out-
but it'd be
Yeah.
afternoon late.
Yeah.
And I'm recommending that because it gives us maybe some more time to really look at this budget and take into consideration the public's comments and input, as well as we don't have to go late into the evenings if we do these other evening
Right.
hearings,
I'm not-
meetings. Just a
Right.
suggestion and
Well, I think we definitely
recommendation.
need to, like you said, break them out, make them their own thing, the
Yes.
way the staff recommended. I just want to make sure, well, the other thing that concerns me is the driving back is, you know, it's the safety of making sure that everybody can attend. Well, y'all just tell me when to be there, and I'll show up.
Saturday's perfect, but at a later time, maybe.
It's up to you.
Extend, change the time to give Cynthia some time to get here.
Would 3 o'clock on that Saturday be a good time?
Sorry about that, guys.
Will you be here by 3, Cynthia? It's a
About
5
5
hour.
hours.
5 hour.
It's about
5
5
hours.
hours, yeah, because I go to Houston.
Or leave early, just come on. Just leave it
After
there.
graduation.
That should be
Just
fine.
leave
Please
early.
enjoy the graduation.
You enjoyed it the night before, so just get home.
We do have other opportunities to
Yes,
review and
ma'am.
rehash
Yes, ma'am.
everything.
And, you can, I would, at a minimum, set the one for the 12th.
Yes. Mhm.
And then, Certainly the one for September 7th, which is the week before we are looking at adopting the budget, and
Those were the
perhaps
two
one
dates.
tentative date in between that you all feel comfortable with.
Let's do this, the 12th and the 7th, I think, right?
And the 7th is not a regular scheduled meeting, right?
That
Our
is
reg-
correct.
Our first one is on the 14th in
The
September.
first one is on the 14th of
Which is
September.
the day.
The day is actually the 15th, but we would like to get it done at that meeting on the 14th.
Now, the 7th starts at 1:30. Does anyone have any problems with
I can make
the
that happen.
1:30?
I can make it happen if it needs to be.
Awesome. Great. Good. Cynthia?
On the 7th of
On the 7th at 1:30?
10th, we're having the regular meeting.
So the discussion so far, so a regular city council meeting on August the 10th at 6:30. A budget workshop on Saturday, August 12th, beginning at 3. A city council regular meeting on the 24th of August, at which time we will have the public hearing on the budget. And then another workshop on September 7th at 1:30.
Right.
Would
And then we can
council-
call for an additional one at
That
any
is
time.
correct, at any time.
So like on Saturday, if we're working on it then and we say, hey, we should have another one sometime around the 20, 24, whatever, we can call one. that-
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Diane, it takes about four hours.
Uh,
I'm looking at the
The
Saturday.
first one will be rather lengthy, so a Saturday meeting might, be a good
longest
thing. Mhm.
Now,
Fine,
we
yeah.
will have, if we request a possible third, you require the 72-hour notice.
Yes, ma'am. And no less than that, because from budget workshop to budget workshop, staff is going to have to go back and plug in numbers and recalculate and reformat budgets.
Actually work it.
You said
make it happen.
3:30, right?
What time?
3,
On the
3:30?
3:30? We
Oh, I
can
don't-
do that.
Well, 3:30 works. 30 minutes is a big difference in that long drive.
You're in Agua Dulce by 3:30, by 3 o'clock. So 3:30? 3:30
3:30.
on, yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah, you know,
3:30, 3:45.
3:30. Yeah, no,
The one on the 10th.
Yes, ma'am.
That's when we're going to discuss and consider the effective tax. rate.
That is correct.
Okay, so the dates are Thursday, August the 10th, from 1:30 to 5:30.
No, we're not.
No,
Oh, we're not doing that
that's a
one.
regular.
No, we're just going to do our regular
Our
schedule
regu-
meeting
at
at
6:30.
9.
The
Okay.
dates so far, August 10th, 2016, 6:30 for a regular meeting.
And then Saturday.
Saturday, the 12th, beginning at 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
The 24th of August for a regular meeting at 6:30, which will hold the hearing on the budget.
Mhm.
And then Thursday, September 7th at 1:30.
Right.
I hate to throw a monkey wrench in all
Hi,
this.
John.
You're going to be,
John, you had to do it.
you're going to be
But,
out, right, John?
And I needed to check, and it's just what I was looking at, but section 102.007 of local government code requires that at the conclusion of the public hearing, the governing body of the municipality shall take action on the proposed budget. A vote to adopt the budget must be a record vote. And so we're gonna need to have the public hearing on the budget, but you might be required at the end of the public hearing to have a vote to adopt the budget.
On
But it
the-
would, we just have to have a vote to adopt it, but that doesn't mean we have to adopt it.
And,
No,
you know,
We're,
to adopt.
Mr. Lemon, this is for the meeting on the 24th?
I just telling you what the local government code says.
But it's,
So that would be the meeting, if your public hearing is on the 24th, then 102.007A,
say that again, I'm sorry, 102?
.007A, adoption of the budget. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the governing body of the municipality shall take action on the proposed budget. A vote to adopt the budget must be a record vote. Now, whether that means action has to be taken where we approve the budget, or
That's what I was
whether we
gonna say.
table the item,
I'm-
that would be an issue for you all to decide at that time.
But some action has to be taken at that time, but we can table it in order to process the public hearing.
And I would be fine with that.
Okay. Well, that's good. That removes
Oh,
the
there
monkey
we go.
wrench and just adds a couple
I was
extra
looking for it.
words in the meeting.
That's just what they're saying.
The action may be to postpone the final vote to a later date.
Okay, that would be good. But if we didn't bring that forward, we might not have taken any action, we go against charter, so.
I was just telling you, I didn't try, don't
Perfect.
try to throw a monkey wrench in it.
No, that's perfect. Okay.
Dana, since the 10th is a very important meeting, I'm not gonna be
You're
here.
gonna
Yeah.
withdraw this. You're not gonna be here? Well,
Mr. Lemon, could the council consider moving their regularly scheduled meeting on the 10th to the 9th?
If it's the council, the charter sets out certain provisions, but we had no problems moving the regular schedule meeting when it was necessary.
Cynthia, will you be here on the 9th? But not on the 10th?
I'll be here on the 10th, but I leave like around,
Let me just make sure
Even at noon or
that
whatever,
the
right?
discussion doesn't have to happen at a regularly scheduled meeting. Sorry, I have a lot of notes on the whole process.
That's fine, that's good. Give them a minute to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't bring that.
I seem to recall that there was maybe 1 or 2 public hearings in the past, and one is specifically to adopt the budget.
That is correct.
So-
The hearing that we're discussing is,
This setting the effective rate.
There's one to set the effective date, but then we have to have a hearing to actually adopt
Adopt.
the budget.
That'd be the 14th.
Those are workshops.
September 14th would be the day that the council takes action to adopt the budget, at which time I believe there's a public hearing, and also you would be taking a separate action on the adoption of the tax rate.
All on the 14th?
Yes, ma'am. It can be done before, but it has to be done no later than September 15th.
Right, okay.
If you give me a minute, I'm still looking through my notes, and I've got pages of them, so 1 second.
So are you, John, looking up? Does it have, okay, I couldn't remember if, we have a lot of things going on here right now.
What does the September 28th come to mind, Diane? Something has to be done prior to the 28th.
That's on a Monday.
Anybody?
If you'll give me one moment, Ms. Moran.
Because last year,
Uh-huh.
because of the audit adjustment that happens right before the funding of the bonds,
Mhm.
we had to adopt the budget by September 15th, which we did. But we amended it on September 28th after we got the final pricing of the bonds the day before. So that was last year, and that was,
Oh, okay, so it's just an
it
amendment.
was just an accommodating the problem that we had with the audit adjustment.
Okay.
I'm not finding any notations that the discussion of the tax rate has to happen at a regularly scheduled meeting, but I'm not quite certain.
My question is do we have to, well, yeah, that one we do actually have to solve today,
Yes.
because that's our next week's meeting.
That's correct.
Okay. Give John a few more minutes.
And I'm not finding any specific requirements of date of the setting of the effective rate. I mean, you're gonna have to set the effective rate prior to adoption of the budget, because it has to be contained in the budget. Whether it's at one of your regularly scheduled meetings or not, it's gonna have to be a open hearing. and-
Oh, we're not setting it on that date, we're just discussing it on that date.
Yes,
Right, you would be
that's
discussing
correct.
it.
And
So, okay,
and so, as long as it's posted, there shouldn't be a problem with it.
so
You would
I'm
actually be,
okay with moving it if everybody else is.
Diane, are you looking at the state comptroller's
I'm looking,
tax?
I actually have a compilation of TML, Local Government Code, Truth in Taxation, and our charter that's color-coded, so that's what I'm looking through right now.
Because I know they set out a calendar that explains each calendar date and what needs to happen. And we actually, and I don't have that with me, but it was something that was given to us at one of the prior meetings, right? Didn't we get that? One of the prior meetings?
Yeah, I had a,
It was
Yeah.
just.
It was a proposed budget calendar,
Your,
yeah.
Oh,
your,
okay.
your finance department has the dates for your proposed budget
Okay.
correct. The timing's based upon state law and the calendar. The issue that was, I think, requested is whether or not we had to have set the effective tax rate at a regular scheduled meeting. And as long as it's an open meeting, you all can set it, you all can discuss it. It just has to be set prior to final adoption of the budget.
okay. So that would still fall all the way into September 14th. So this, moving it to the 9th is just for discussing the effective tax rate and then allowing us to accommodate Cynthia before she goes out of town.
Yes.
I'm not sure about that.
I was just going to say.
I'm very leery
I
about
think
that
there's
date.
Let's look.
there should be at that meeting the discussion of the tax rate. If the proposed tax rate is going to raise more revenue than the preceding year's revenue, meaning that it's not the effective rate, you have to take a record vote and you schedule the public hearings. The question that is trying to be determined right now is whether that action has to be at a regularly scheduled meeting, and that's what Mr. Lemon's looking into.
And it,
I can't find it
And
anywhere.
neither can I. I'd say just set it on the set schedule. You can set it for a meeting, just be certain that you go ahead and you have it posted,
Right.
that you're going to consider it.
With that being said, it looks like the discussion is now moving the regular meeting from August 10th to August 9th to include the discussion of the tax rate. A budget workshop on Saturday, August 12th at 3:30 p.m. The regular meeting of the City Council on August 24th at 6:30 p.m., at which time we will have the public hearing on the budget. And another budget workshop on Thursday, September 7th at 1:30 p.m. Did I get that all clear?
9, 12, 24, 7.
9, 12, 24, and 7, yes,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am.
Works for me.
Mrs. Carrasco, is that conducive to your schedule?
I'm
Perfect.
so sorry.
No, that's okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, we got those dates.
Now we just need a motion, guys.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to set those dates as our workshop dates?
I make a motion to adopt the dates presented on the 9th of August for a regular meeting.
Mhm.
The 12th, with the discussion of the tax rate.
Yes.
The 12th is a workshop. The 24th as a regular scheduled meeting with the public hearing.
Mhm.
And September the 7th as a workshop.
Right.
I second that.
We will vote now on that. Cynthia?
Aye.
Aye.
Yolanda?
Quick,
Quick.
quick.
Huh? Quick.
Got one more.
One more item.
Agenda number 6, adjourn and consider and act upon adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I second.
Second, Yolanda.
Aye.
Aye.
Ay, ay, ay. Se acabó todo ya.
So thank you all very much for this evening.
Ya, qué revoltura de salir de aquí. ¿Qué? Con dates y no dates. It is now 7:40. Adjourned. This meeting has been adjourned.
Thank you,
As of 7:40.
Thank you.
Thank you.